What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. So I recently went out to go see the new film called Twisters, and it's directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who directed the movie called Minari. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the title. It's a movie that got an Academy nomination for Best Picture and Best Director, and it's supposed to be an indie drama that I still haven't yet to see. So when I found out that he was signed on to do a Twisters movie, I thought like, wow, it looks like that they really want this to be a really damn good sequel. And now, if for anyone out there that was very confused if is this movie a remake or a reboot or a sequel, well, I'm going to clarify for you that it is a standalone sequel. It stands on its own. You don't have to require yourself to watch the original Twister movie to understand what's going on in the film. It's a brand new set of characters, brand new storm chasers, and it's definitely in the same continuity with some fuel, a little bit of an Easter eggs, but it never tries to do a constant callback. So you can go in and completely blind without knowing anything. And look, we were all asking before this movie came out, did we really need another Twisters movie? The original film was great for what it was. It was a cult following, beloved disaster classic film. And I grew up watching it in the mid 90s. And because this was at the time in the mid 90s that the disaster movies were at its prime during the genre, it was groundbreaking, especially Twisters. I loved it growing up as a kid, and I still think it's still holds up to this day, regardless of how ridiculous the whole scientific mumble jumble with the tornadoes that are completely unrealistic. But you don't think about it too much. You learn to turn your brain off to suspend your disbeliefs. So going into Twisters, this is telling the story about Kate, played by Daisy Edgar-Jones, who is suffering through the tragic loss of her friends who were storm chasers, who got in the middle of the F5 and were killed in the middle of the F5 tornado. And she decided to quit being a storm chaser. And years later, she gets cross paths with her old friend Javi, played by Anthony Ramos, who now tells her that there's another new tracking system for the tornado, and now she's back in the game. And she cross paths with another team of misfits of storm chasers, and it's led by Glen Powell, who is a social media YouTuber superstar, and who just goes off and shoots live stream in the middle of a tornado and gets big hits on social media. And after they cross paths, the two competitor teams are now in the fight for their lives, and now that they're in the biggest intense tornado that they have not faced before. That's really what the plot of the movie. It's literally what you see is what you get in the marketing. And I love the cast members of the three main characters. I love Glen Powell. You may have known him from Top Gun Maverick that played Hangman. He's basically playing the same character who is so reckless but does have a lot of heart, even though he does a lot of reckless things, especially when plays plays a lot of big soundtrack hits while he's chasing tornadoes and does something reckless. And his red truck that is basically like more of the cowboy Batmobile. All the laws of physics in this movie is completely ridiculous and outrageous, but you know what? It's pretty much being consistent to what they did in the original film. It doesn't try to be like a shot for a shot. Yes, it's way more of like the retread of the original film that we have already seen before. I love that they went back to the basics of the doing practical stunt work and also using a little bit of CGI that use it as a tool to tell the story without being loaded with CG fest. They really put the cast members through a lot of hell to doing the stunt work. They talked about that in the interview many times before the film was released, and I enjoyed it. The best part about the movie is that they made Oklahoma a real life character that we wanted to care about the community that are suffering through the tragic of loss of their loved ones, and especially their homes that are getting destroyed by these devastating tornadoes. Which now this year there's been a lot more tornadoes that are more deadly than they have ever had in recent years. According to director Lee Isaac Chung, who also grew up in Oklahoma, and it was his home. And I love that he made this a living character, and it was shot on 35 millimeter. I love the color palette. I love that the cinematography, how we get us into the atmosphere, and as we're seeing them chasing tornadoes, it was a great sequences that they done, and I was impressed by the direction. Now, look, I'm not going to say that the plot was very compelling. It's very generic. It's something that you've already seen before. It's nothing that's going to change your life forever. And the best part about the movie is that you're focusing on the three main characters, especially Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glen Powell. Their chemistry was absolutely great. They were the highlights of the movie. Sure, it's not going to show the spark of like what Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt did in the original film, but it was enough for me to care about them, and I thought that they were great together. And it didn't really try to force the love story. They don't try to copy off of what Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt had done in the original film. But I will say that Daisy Edgar-Jones, she does have that tornado instinct of nature. She can definitely sense a tornado coming from a mile away. She does have that similarity to what Bill Paxton did. So she kind of is similar to Bill Paxton and have a little bit of a Helen Hunt in her at the same time. And I love like Glen Powell's story too, even though that him and his team are completely loud and obnoxious and crazy and doing a lot of reckless stuff. And every time they chase tornadoes and sell a lot of merchandise. But the reason why they're selling merchandise is because that they wanted to make enough money to get enough food and pay it back to the community who really needed it. And I love that they really care about the community. They're not just all about just doing storm chasing and try to post it on social media. They're all about caring about the community and make sure that people get the safety. And that's what they did differently this time around than what the original did not do the first time. Not that I'm not trying to diminish the first original Twisters. I still love the original Twister more than I did with this movie, but this is still enough for me to enjoy the ride, regardless of how ridiculous it may be with this whole scientific mumble jumble stuff. But I love that Daisy Edgar-Jones is all about trying to save many lives. Her goal is to figure out how to way to disrupt the tornado so that she can save many people, even though the laws of physics are pretty much ridiculous and not very realistic. But you got to learn to turn your brain off and suspend your disbeliefs. But overall, I really enjoyed Twisters. I think this is a really good standalone sequel. I'm not going to put this on par with the original Twister movie. I'm not going to put this on par with Top Gun Maverick because I think Top Gun Maverick is still the best legacy sequel that we've had in a long time. It's not on the same level with that movie, but I still think that this is enough for me to want to go see this movie again in theaters. And I wanted to see this movie in 40X. A lot of people said that seeing this in 40X is definitely an immersive experience, according to the people who have gone out to see it. And it's very hard to find a 40X, find a theater that has 40X. I've always wanted to experience 40X, and I wanted to experience it watching Twisters. I'm going to get into a little bit of the negatives out the way, and there's still things that I had a little bit of issues with the movie. I wish that Glen Powell's team, the Tornado Wrangler, I wish we would have got a little bit more screen time. To me, they felt a little bit one note and they kind of got pushed to the side. Not that I don't want them to focus on the main characters, I do, but I wanted to care more about the team as well. I wanted them to get into the banter and make me feel for them, but they kind of felt a little bit one note and they weren't as good as what we saw in the original Twister because I love the team in the original Twister. I enjoy their dynamic because they were just more than a team. They were more of a family, and that's what worked in the original film. But this one, it didn't have that same charm as it did in the original film. But it's not enough to be a make or break for me. I still enjoyed it overall. I had a good time in the theater. And I will say that the soundtrack of the movie, that they were playing a lot of biggest country hits for the songs. Some of them were better than others, but some of them were kind of forgettable. I wish they would have given us a little bit more of a powerful music score like in the original Twister to bring that kind of heart, bring that emotion, bring that kind of awe moment, the wonder, and that we're going off on the adventure and you're feeling it when you play the music score. And I can't remember who did the music score for the original film. This one kind of felt like meh. It had some great hits, but some of them weren't not very memorable. That's going to be sticking into my head for years. So my rating for Twisters, I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It's a really good solid score. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's not a masterpiece like the original Twister movie. So what did you think of Twisters? Did you enjoy it? Or are you someone out there that thought it wasn't for you? And I don't blame people that may not like the new Twisters movie because people are going to be so attached to the original Twister. It's kind of hard to enjoy a movie that was so special in the first movie because it's really about what you see is what you get. It definitely went back to the things that we liked about disaster movies, and this is the better disaster movie that we've had in recent years. I mean, when was the last time we've had a very good disaster movie? The last thing I could think of was the movie that was directed by Roland Emmerich, was The Day After Tomorrow, which that was like 20 years ago. Hopefully this movie is successful to enough that that Hollywood can continue to make a good disaster movies. The reason why it worked is because they did a great job with the practical effects and the CGI for the balance, but also you want to care about the human characters and you want to believe that they're in real danger and you want to feel for them. That's what worked for the disaster movies, regardless of how ridiculous it may be, but they were able to sell it and not make it way too silly and ridiculous, if that makes any sense. So I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more content. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you guys have a great weekend and I hope and stay tuned for more of my videos.